Chris, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
Hello, how are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. I've been looking forward to this one. We talked a little bit before we hit record that I've been following you, you've been following me, so this was bound to happen at some point.
Yeah, I still don't understand why you get me as a guest on your podcast because I'm not that interesting, but I really appreciate the opportunity.
I
Let's
don't know.
see,
I
let's see if I
I
can
think you're
bring something to the plate.
I think you will. I think you're pretty interesting. I mean, not only you and your thoughts and your story, but I got to tell you, your podcast studio is probably better than mine.
Yeah.
I'm digging the podcast studio.
Yeah, it's actually like it's my guns room, my man cave, and my podcast studio at some point. I'm gonna start like in a next month or a couple of months. And yeah, I love the place. I mean, even if I don't mind if I don't start my podcast. I just love sitting here and and listen to some podcasts, listen to music, read a book.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that on Instagram. I don't know when you posted it, but you had posted the studio and you said who's going to be the next guest. So I wasn't sure if you had started recording or not. It sounds like you're getting close.
Yeah, it's gonna be like couple of months. It's
Nice.
coming. I'm taking my time.
Well, good. Well, you fully embraced the American look, anyways, with regards to the studio. I'm actually really curious about your story in coming to America, and also the concept of the American dream for you. This is something that I've noticed seems to be a growing sentiment that the American dream is dead, that it's not what it used to be or what it once was. And I know you've wanted to come to America since you were a little boy, as I understand it.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't want to come since I was a little boy, but I was really in love with America, like since I was really young. I've been telling the story so many times, but there's no other way to say it. I started to watch Western movies with my grandfather. I started at 7 years old, 8 years old, and it was love at first sight. And then to make it a short story, I keep like trying to learn about America. I was kind of a history nerd, and in books when I was young as a teenager, I was not cool at all. So when you don't have any girlfriend, when you grow up, you have plenty of time to be smart and read some book and stuff. And there's something which it's tough to say when you fall in love with a woman. There can be like some attributed characters, but you don't explain love, and it's tough for me to explain the love I have for America since I was a kid. But there's a sentiment who really this sentiment really grow as I was getting older. And finally, for many reasons, it took me a while to tell and admit to myself, like, I want to live in America at least for a few years. So I was past 30. I was, sorry, around 32, 33 years old. And the idea was really pursuing a dream, just like the fact, like I would love to live a few years in America was a dream in itself. And it's true, like I'm like an example of the American dream, because not only I live here, which was a personal dream, but the thing I've done in America, I don't think I love my homeland, France, but I don't think I could have succeeded the way I wanted to succeed. It's not money or stuff like this, but the one thing I wanted to achieve dreams and to travel and to see stuff and to grow up and be better for myself was a little more challenging to do in France. And in America, I don't know. It's difficult to put, to explain it, to put a label, but things are possible in this country.
Hmm. What do you think was the hindrance of that type of pursuit in France that you don't feel was available to you there that might be available here?
First, my dream was to live in America. So I had to move to America to pursue my dream. So
Sure.
I had a really nice career. I did a lot of nice stuff in France. I love the country. I didn't leave my country because I was sick or frustrated or anything with anything. I had another dream. But the thing is, like, we can let's talk about racism. I happen to be a guy who is black. My skin color is black. And like, there's a lot of conversation the last 10 years in America and last 3 years about the racism. This country is so racist, systemic racist. Actually, I always say to people who say stuff like this, compared to what exactly?
Hmm.
Because, for instance, I'm not, I didn't come from a country, France, with like a huge history of racism. You know, we didn't have to go through the civil rights during the 50s and 60s to get to a better point like America. But saying that our country is like free of any racism, it's easy for any person of color. Our immigration is black from Africa. It's also from West Indies. French West Indies are not immigrants; they are French people. My father was a black man from a French West Indies, West Indies island. But the thing, like, and we have a lot of immigration from our former colonies, Black Africa and North Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria. It has been very tough for these people to climb the social ladder in France. I come to this country, USA, like I started to travel 20, 25 years ago. You see minorities at every level of the society.
Definitely.
Business, entertainment, sports, politics, and big guy. I was a journalist back in the day. One of the biggest CEO I interviewed back in the day was the CEO of Simon Tech. I still remember his name was John Thompson. John Thompson was a black man like me, grew up like in middle class, etc. He was the CEO of one of the biggest tech company ever back in the day, like Simon Tech, antivirus. So you come to this country, you see minorities, people of different color, different origin, all over the country, at every level of society, and still some people say, "Oh, America is so racist." You go to France, we never had any president who is not like a white man, which is fine for me. But you know what I mean? We never had like any minority president. We never had any prime minister, which is from a minority. And is there systemic racism in France? No. But at the same time, the possibility, the opportunity when you come from nothing in terms of social status, or you come from a minority with not resources, it's tough in France. In France, when your name is very Arabic, you second or third generation French, but your parents or grandparents were like from Algeria, Morocco, not easy to even get an apartment in Paris.
Really?
When you get this, oh yeah, I'm completely honest. So the thing is, like, for instance, people I met in the USA when I was not like especially wealthy, etc. There was a mixity of social classes, which is pretty tough to find and to have in France. So there's the field of possibility in America is much more immense and vast and large like in France, because of the side of the country, but because of the community side of the country. Like, there's a lot of different communities, and contrary to what people think, good luck to be racist in America. Actually, I mean, if you're racist in America, you lose everything. You cannot have a job. You can. It's going to the point, if you're not racist, but you say something which are labeled racism by people, you lose everything: your social status, your job, your friends, your family. So you know that this kind of mixity, you don't see it in France. So it's much more like you have much more opportunities in the USA.
Yeah, I think, and look, I'm looking at it through my own lens, so I'd readily admit that as a white man, right? But I think that most of the conversation about race, you correct me if I'm wrong or see it differently, comes from a select few, whether it's the media or government agencies that are more interested in riling people up. You know, I have all kinds of conversations with all kinds of people, black, white, women, men, you name it, gay, straight. And you know how often I care about that? Never.
Yeah.
You know, I might recognize or acknowledge, okay, here's a black man, just like I would recognize or acknowledge another man who has a beard or has an interesting mustache, for example.
Absolutely.
But it's not an issue. It's not a factor other than those people who are trying to rile us up and get to fight against each other.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I don't know, it's part of the history, it's part of the media. It didn't happen this last 3 or 5 years, by the way, because I started to travel in the USA 20 years ago. And I met back in the day, and I've met like a few years ago, black men, for instance, in California, when I was talking to them and say, "Oh, I traveled to South Dakota, I traveled to Wyoming, I went to Montana, I went on this road trip for my work or just for pleasure sometimes because I love being on the road in America." This guy, like black man, black Afro-American, was like, "Wow, you're going to South Dakota? You're not worried about going there?" You know, it's like, and I'm like, you know, it was very surprising to me. So I noticed for a long time it came from a place when some people are convinced about it. Why they are convinced about it? Part is back of the past, the history, but it's just not true. The last years, it's not true. You know, my wife happened to be white. When we moved from California to Tennessee, some of our friends, they didn't come to me, but they told my wife, "Do you think it's gonna be safe for Chris in Tennessee?" And that's people who are really educated. That's people who are like really good friends. They were worried about this kind of stuff. You know, I have some friend in Los Angeles who like every time I went to Texas, were like, "Oh, you're going to Texas? That's a bunch of racist people." I mean, are you kidding me? Texas is so big. There will be like bad people everywhere, but you know, so there's something culturally. Probably the media will push a narrative for a long time, and people believe it, and they don't experience anything by themselves. So
Right.
they will die probably. Some people will die thinking this part of the country is racist. If you think like this is racist, etc., etc. I don't know how we can change this.
Well, I think part of it, you have been for a long time active in portraying culture through photojournalism. And I think that's a big way we can begin to address these problems is we have quote unquote journalists now who are doing more opinion pieces and biased columns and reports rather than actual journalism. And I think there's a lot in the media and entertainment industry that aren't portraying real life, the way things really are. And again, it becomes from a bias or it comes from a desire to have clicks. And that's, that's frustrating for me. I imagine it is for you being somewhat in the industry in the past.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely is. And I don't think I'm not optimistic in a way. Like basically I was a journalist for a long time, and when I see some media who try to be to do an honest job, if they are a little bit on the conservative side, only conservative people are going to read or listen to them. So basically, you still don't educate people. We get to this point right now. You say, oh, you should listen to this guy. You should read this article. And depending on the source, some people will say no, period. So they will never change. They keep, if I, to summarize it, like some people, they're going to listen to CNN. Some people, they're going to listen to Fox. And the people who listen to Fox will never listen to CNN and vice versa. Both are not the best example of journalists anyway. But if you have this media which is labeled as a conservative, a lot of people will never consider it. So I don't know how you can change anything except because with conversation face to face. I think the people are gonna change stuff much more than any media right now. The politician like use this left and right, and the media uses. So it's only conversation like this, but even in a conversation, how many people are going to listen to you and I, Ryan? I'm not sure a lot of people, they're going to say, order of a man, oh, I see this guy, patriarch, blah, 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 etc. I don't want to. And it's funny because I had this interview with PragerU, and I had a lot of very good comments. But I had some people who comment like, oh, at first I see this brother with his afro. I was like, oh, it's going to represent. And I'm so disappointed by what he says. So it was like, I caught their attention because the way I look, but because of the way I look, they assume, oh, he's one of us. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I caught the attention, but right away they didn't like what I have to say. And it's the same with racism. There's some people who I can tell them, you don't have a racist country. And it's not just me being a tourist. I've been traveling in this country for 20 years, and I've been living in this country for more than 10 years. I become a US citizen. This is not a racist country. And this is far less racist like many countries in the world. And I've been traveling the world. They will not listen to me. A lot of people will never listen to you just because you're white. But they will not even, as they come to the point, they won't listen to me, even if I'm black. They don't care. They absolutely don't care.
I think there's a lot of laziness in it. And look, I'm guilty of it too, right? I might see the way somebody looks, or I might see the way that they're dressed or what they have behind them on a screen, like in your room or my room.
Yeah.
And we formulate opinions about that person, and it's identity politics. We want those individuals to fit into this perfect little box that we've constructed, because anything outside of that would challenge us, make us think, and therefore we'd have to invest some time and energy in actually rethinking how we've viewed the world. I'm guilty of it too. Most people are. it's something that I
I
think we
am.
need to be aware of.
Yeah, I'm totally guilty of this, and the thing like I have some very good friend. I have some friend, American or French, who are really on the left in terms of politics. And some of them like are so stay really good friend with me. And they know we like, oh, you think this, I think that. They really stay friend to me. And sometimes when I'm guilty also of judgment, or I'm guilty of like, oh, I don't want to spend time with this guy because I know what he thinks, blah, 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 etc. But I have some friends who are so really good to me, despite and beside the fact like we don't agree on many things, like it forced me to be a better man and to say sometimes, come on, this guy is a great friend of mine. And my wife also, my wife grew up in Los Angeles. She's a Hollywood girl. And a lot of people are very liberal in Los Angeles, but we are very good friends. I'm not going to erase this friend because we don't think anything alike when it comes to politics or ideology. There's some stuff we are really like, we cannot compromise on them. But when I know the soul of someone, I'm gonna keep, being good to him, and good to her. I cannot like say, oh, he doesn't think like me, like so done. I'm not erasing people from my life as much as I can. I've been erased a lot
Yeah.
by friend, by friend who obviously were not friends.
Right. Yeah, I tiptoe on the conspiracy line a little bit when it comes to this potentially deliberate and intentional plan to keep us separated. You know, we
Mhm.
have technology and we're able to connect with people across the world. I had a video that I posted on Instagram just yesterday. I looked today, it had been viewed 100,000 times. The fact that you can reach 100,000 eyeballs in a 24-hour window and more is phenomenal. We're more connected than we've ever been. And the way
Yeah,
I've heard it explained is that we're so connected, and yet we find it really difficult to connect with somebody who's sitting across the dinner table from us. And I think
yeah,
there's some intentionality about that, because when you do break bread together and you are face to face and you actually have to confront your differences of opinion, but in a respectful way, because there's risk associated with doing it in person, it begins to change the narrative. And you start to see that maybe we're a little bit more similar than we initially
yeah.
thought.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of people, you can always find some common grounds. There's always this. Try and my wife pushed this a lot. To say, try to find the common grounds. There's something and sometimes it can be very futile. There's something you like together. Start the conversation by this, and it can be anything. It can be, oh, we like cars. Oh, we like this movie. We like that, and you start like this, and then you like in a better spirit, in a better mood to interact with these people and to kind of know this person a little bit better. So there's an idea like sometimes I try to go on, I would say on the other side, because or we say we love the same song. Let's talk about this artist. We love the same artist. Let's talk about song. It's again, it's a people. It's not technology. It's not media. It's certainly not politician. It's like finding common ground with people and try to be respectful. And as I grow older also, I try to avoid the idea like, okay, I'm 51 now. I don't have time for this. I love my wife. I have my bunch of solid friends, of brothers. I have my two sons. I love my family. I don't have time for people which I'm gonna argue with. Okay.
Right.
And I try to not be like this, because if I do this the next 20, 30 years, I'm going to be like in a bubble. And I cannot be in a bubble because the world is not in a bubble. No matter what I want to do, even like I'm living 40 minutes south of Nashville in Tennessee, in a place I really love, I still gonna meet people who absolutely don't think like me.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody will find a bubble. So I'm trying to be like, okay, as you get older, don't be just this old man who say, okay, I got my tribe, I got my people, and I'm not talking to you. Yeah, I try to fight this, and I'm guilty
Yeah.
to not always be good at it.
Yeah. I mean, the other side of it, though, is that there's so much contention in the world, and I've bought into it at times. And, admittedly, it gets clicks, right?
Yeah,
I I've just come to the conclusion, even just over the past several months, I don't want to actually be an angry person. I don't want to be contentious. I don't want to be upset. I don't want to fight with faceless strangers on the internet. That sounds so ridiculous to me now. It wasn't 6 months ago because I was engaged in it. But it's hard to find the balance between wanting to be a man who's involved in cultural change, but shield it enough that it doesn't change you at the core and make you a really negative, contentious person, which is what I was becoming.
Yeah. Yeah, I was guilty of this, especially during the 2020, the pandemic and the presidential run. I
Right.
was getting angry and upset every single day. And I was in Twitter back in the day, and I was posting stuff upset and angry, which were not like I don't think so stupid or anything, but it was really like being strong on my opinion and being so upset at other stuff which happening in the world. Like I was like, and I was pushing this, and I get a lot actually of followers and interaction, etc. But that's exactly the same thing you said. I don't want to be this angry man. I don't want to be this upset. I don't want to be upset and angry. And and on top of it, like my wife always say, like I have a quality. She said your quality, since obviously since I was a kid, that's what she thinks. I'm a happy guy. I'm a happy, I'm not this mean bad man. I don't even look like mean and bad. I have this face, I have this smile, even my voice, I have a high pitched voice. My son make fun of me like for this my old the old last 10 years. So she said at some point, you know, you're gonna attract people to listen or to think about stuff by being you. You've never been this guy who's gonna be negative and dark and upset. If you do this, people who think like you're gonna be, they're gonna be, oh, you're right, Chris, they're gonna love you more. But you're not going to attract anybody else. And you just get people who agree with you, and we keep angry, we keep getting angry, and no, you don't want to live like this. It's a
Yeah,
poison. It's a poison for yourself.
it really is. It's crippling. It's a poison. A lot of times we don't even know how toxic it is. It infiltrates our lives. I was talking with my wife today about, the way I was behaving, I would say in the last, year or so. And we were talking about something specific, and I won't get into details because that's between her and I, but, I came to the realization, even just today, it was about an hour before we jumped on the podcast, that the way that I would have handled this particular situation 7 months ago, 8 months ago would be completely different. And part of it was the toxicity that was in my life that I allowed to come into my life. And I didn't even realize how bad it got until I let go of it. And I'm in a different place now. And I see things so much more clearly, painfully at times, about how I was behaving.
Mm, absolutely. And that's what we do. My wife and I, we do this for each other. And luckily, we rarely upset at something at the same time.
Mm.
So she got upset. Like I remember we dropped our son, he visited for the weekend, our older son, he visited us last week, and we dropped it on Monday. And things were happening, etc. And my wife was reading some article on the drive back from the airport, and she was getting upset. And me, I was not. I was still on the pleasure, on the good time we had with our son. So I was like, trying to calm her down and say, okay, we just had a great weekend, don't push. Yeah, I agree with you. And the thing is like, it's good. Like that's an important part of a relationship. I notice where I love my wife, and I really marry her up. She's a fantastic human being. And the thing is, like, we always hear when the other one needed it. So when I was
Mm.
getting upset, she never fueled my rage. And when she get upset, I don't fuel her rage. And sometimes it would be easy because we have the same value and we think the same things. I will be, oh, yes, you're right. Did you read this? Did you read this? No, most of the time when I see, oh, it's boiling, I'm kind of like, let's talk about something else, love. I take, change, I put the radio, I put a song, and that's really important. You need to channel your anger, and now I channel my anger doing good thing. In a relationship too, by the way. How long did it take me in any kind of relationship with a woman to say, when I get angry in an argument, walk away? It
Mm.
took me 30 years. I
Why
started
does
to
it
do
take
this
so
in
long?
my late 40s. In my late 40s, I'm 51. And so it's great for a relationship, a marriage, a couple, you get angry in an argument, sometimes walk away, don't try to win. And the same thing with anger. Anger, at some point, you lose your thought, you lose your idea, you lose the clarity of your system, of your reasoning, and you just want to win. And when I was posting something on Instagram story, and I'm still guilty of this sometimes, I want to post something because I want to punch the other side, and I want to win ideologically, in terms of ideology, by saying some stuff with like, I don't think like you. Take this. But winning, it's not winning. And same thing in a relationship, in a marriage. When you want to win the argument, my wife helped me a lot progress on this, and she could be guilty of this, but she said, do you want to be happy or do you want to win? And that's always what I told also my son now in relationship. It's like, men and women, we're not the same, don't try to win the argument, and especially not when it's an argument, not when you're upset. Try to win a debate sometime with people. But with your girlfriend, fiance, wife, don't try to win, walk away.
Yeah. And most of the time I found that when I'm trying to win these types of arguments, whether it's with my wife or my kids or a stranger online, it's dumb. You look back 24 hours later and you're like, wait, what were we arguing about? You don't even remember 24 hours later because it was stupid. It wasn't worth even having a discussion about, let alone an argument over.
Absolutely. It's funny because it's not worthy with your wife or your kids. You love them dearly. They matter to you. And it's not worthy with a stranger. At the two opposite sides, yes, people you really care about. It's not worthy because you care about them, you love them so much. But it's not worthy with a stranger because he's a stranger. He's somebody who knows nothing about you and you know nothing about him or her. So it's like sometimes, but we need to grow up, I was not like that, I didn't have that wisdom like my entire life, but it gets obvious when you think about it. When you think like, I cannot argue with a stranger. Period.
Or you do it wrong enough over a period of time and you're feeling the weight and the consequences of it, and we learn as men, I think we sometimes we choose to learn the hard lessons and we don't need to, but we do because we're hard-headed and stubborn.
Yeah. I know for a fact, like when you argue with your wife, your woman, and you get mad and you say stuff, and not necessarily like very bad stuff, but you say stuff, you leave some traces. It's like, it's a bruise, it's an emotional bruise. And the way my experience in life and the way women and men are wired differently, it's not like they don't forget or forgive or anything like this, but it's just like you're gonna leave a scars, and you don't want to punch a woman and leave her some scars. So every one of these arguments, when basically you try to win it, so by win it, like verbally you punching actually, and she's gonna still maybe probably love you, etc. If you have a good relationship, and if you are not saying stuff which are absolutely outrageous and insulting, she's gonna forgive and forget, but it's gonna stay there. And this, I don't want this anymore. And really, I'm very cautious with my wife to not do this, especially like, we're not young people anymore, and I want to be us at peace for the rest of our life. So that matters a lot in a relationship with a woman, in my opinion.
What are some of your outlets? I imagine with photography, I've got to imagine that's a creative outlet for you. Are there other outlets that you have in your life that help you if you do get upset or you do get angry, or, you have some thoughts about that, you direct those towards healthy outlets?
What, doing something, taking somewhere, doing for work, doing something physical. I'm not to the point, you really work out and you really do jiu-jitsu and so. I'm not doing this kind of stuff much, but doing something and changing my mind from being in my thought to actually doing something. Can be anything. Now I'm lucky, I live on a ranch of 40 acres, so I go for a walk with my dogs. I'm going to shoot a little bit my gun, to be on something which demand me to be like, in a process, very something, the safety issue. The firearms are really good for this because you cannot do this. You need to channel and calm down your anger right away because there's a process, there's safety rules, etc. And I take this very seriously. And so it's something which can help me like get out of like any anger, any like, ooh, like, and calm me down right away, because you know you do the step, you do the thing safely, then you do your breathing like to all your gut. This kind of stuff helped me. But honestly, to be the most important thing is like I always told my two boys, like you are your five best friends, okay?
Mm.
And so the people you hang with at any age of your life, and the people who love you, esteem and admire you, and you love them, esteem and admire you, that's the people you can keep you accountable. So I have some friends. I'm not going to talk if I'm mad. I'm not going to talk about the argument, etc. But I'm surrounded by a community of brothers who keep me accountable. I don't know how to explain it like really well, but the thing like I'm at this point of my life when I don't want to be an asshole to anybody. Certainly not to my wife. I don't want to be an asshole to my community, to my neighbors, etc. And I find a very beautiful community, a strong community, and I'm part of a community here. And I have some brother. We're doing Bible study every Thursday. It was started by my neighbor right there. And when you hang out with these people very often, and we text and we do stuff together, and we know our wife, and we know our children, and we know our life. And every Thursday we stop, we read, we talk about in a very personal level. He has like a long-lasting effect. What we do every Thursday morning lasts all Thursday. And being on this discipline, and then the personal part of it, I read the Bible, you know, I'm on I'm on this journey, I'm on this path, on this process. You feel, yes, there's a time with the community, the time with my brother, and the time by myself, which now I read the Bible, I pray much more often, I educate myself. That keep me accountable without having needed to talk to anybody. Just the fact, like the friend I have in my life, I don't even need to pick the phone because they're part of my life, and I'm going to see like frequently. And we are role model for each other. And you know, the first time my neighbor who has to actually start this Bible study every Thursday, we really click. I love him. I love his whole family, and the feeling is reciprocal. That's a beautiful thing. But one time he told me at the beginning of our friendship, he said, "I love have you around, Chris. You're gonna make me accountable as a man, as a husband, as a father." And at first I didn't understand this, especially because he's a great man. I was like more, I'm gonna look up to you. But
Yeah.
then now we develop this friendship, we develop this brotherhood. I'm like, it's an effect will stay on me even we are not together. He doesn't need to witness anything I do. In my daily life, by having this friendship, by knowing who he is, by knowing who's another friend Matt is, another friend John is, another friend Sean, I know who they are. So he has this effect of me to make me accountable on my daily life every day as a man. And that's much more important, like for me personally, that's much more important like anything I said first, like going for a walk, doing some physical activity. I have a very lasting effect on what I'm building as a brotherhood with this man. That's why
I'm
what you do at Order of Men really talk to me. And it's funny because you started to do stuff like a long time ago now. And me, I'm on this path for the last year, for the last 6-7 months, really. And I can see the benefit of it, you know.
I'm really glad you're talking about this because I mean this is something that we address, and what's interesting is I often address it, the importance and power of brotherhood. And even for myself, I noticed how hard and difficult it was to develop that. And I say hard and difficult, it's not, but it does require time, it requires energy, it requires a sacrifice. You know, you're talking about a Thursday night, you've got kids, you've got your wife, you've got your business, you've got all these other things, and yet you're willing to set that down temporarily to invest in men in your community, your neighbors. And
Yeah.
the thing about an investment is that we do it with anticipation of some future result. And that's what a lot of guys don't understand is they think they just have to pour their time, energy, and resources into brotherhood, but they don't see the tangible measurable result immediately. But I'm telling you guys, and I think you're finding this. Obviously, this is what you're explaining, is the power of having these guys in your corner and the sacrifice it takes to make sure you're doing that every single week, and what that brings to your life and what that brings to these other men's lives.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right about the fact like you want tangible result and men want to tangible result. And I think, and there's nothing wrong about it because you're on, if you on the process, if you're on your path, you want to better yourself, you want to be a better husband, a better father, a better friend, a better brother, etc., etc. You want to do, okay, I'm gonna do this because I want this, but sometimes there's no tangible effect. You're just getting better. And you realize at some point what is the tangible effect. And I didn't realize this until some stuff happened in my life, and the way I react in a total calm place in my mind right now when something happened which would have triggered me back in the day of anxiety, of fear, etc. And sometime after some stuff happened, I'm like, wow, I was not like this. But it's not like, oh, I couldn't feel it until it happens. So it was not a tangible result I was looking for, and it was not a tangible result I could have think about until it really happened. And then it happened repeatedly. It happened repeatedly when the shit hit the fan now, I'm calm. And I never be like this. I never be like overreacting or freaking out, but I will be like anxious and fearful and like and pessimistic and say, oh, I'm gonna do this, how are we gonna do this? Or oh, here we go again with this issue, blah blah blah. And now I'm like, okay, and I'm moving on, and I'm moving on by acting and trying to solve it. Even if I don't know how to solve it, I'm moving on in my life. I'm doing something in a quiet space. And yes, that's not a tangible result I could have seen when I started to do this 6 months ago.
So you attribute that to having the guys in your community that you talk with on a regular basis, that level of clarity or calmness when you are feeling anxious or have things come up in your life?
Yeah, I also I attribute this above this to God and to my faith. I really had the renewal of my faith the last 2 years. I was never an atheist or anything, but in my family, I was mostly the only one a little bit interested into religion in France. And I never really find in France people to really talk about it. So I was, I have a college degree in history, so I did some theology in college about Islam mostly actually. And I always like have this interest, but it was something very personal. And never found the people to really talk about it. And some stuff happened the last 2 years. It came actually more by our older son, which on his own will started to went to a church in Santa Monica, in Dallas when he was in college, and then in Santa Monica when he was coming back for holidays and weekend. And he went with my wife, and I started to go. So there was like a complete renewal of my faith. And that's why my friend, when he started his Bible study every Thursday morning, he invited me. So it's all this process. So the Brotherhood is fantastic because that's some people I can talk about religion. I can talk.
Sure.
We read the Bible. We read two chapters every Thursday, and we talk about it. So we can talk about everything. And I have some people who actually have like a lifelong education in Christianity, which I from their family sometimes, so he opened for me like they boost my journey. They help me like it's very fruitful, and it's very like rewarding because I can really without fear I can like fearlessly talk about religion, and that's what helped me. So the Brotherhood is important, but we all give praise to God, seriously, and and we are all together, and every one of us are every Thursday morning at this place, and we can start to grow up the group because ultimately we want to talk about God, and we want to live like we want to practice the way of Jesus, and we want to live like this. So I cannot lie, that's what helped me like a lot better myself. But everything clicked together at the same time.
Sure.
It's not like I didn't went for a bad place and I found religion. I was always like having a faith not really finding in France for sure for not, and even in the USA, not really finding the people to talk about it and to share and to learn from.
Mm.
So I found this, and then like yes, it actually like yeah, it's pretentious to say it makes me a better man. It actually makes me being much more calm and happy and in a great spot to be a good husband to my wife and to be a better father to my two boys. That definitely helped me. And the brotherhood of my friend, it's just like it's a bonus, and it's
Yeah.
priceless.
That's our stories are actually similar in some regards, in that I'm finding more of my journey with faith, right now. And I was listening to something by Jordan Peterson earlier today, and he shared something interesting. He said, we place of course I'm paraphrasing, but we value different things, and sometimes those things that we value are at odds with each other. For example, we might value the relationship we have with our wife and our children, and also we place value on being a meaningful contributing member of society through the work that we do.
Yeah,
And those are at odds sometimes, because sometimes we have to work, and also we want to be with our families. He said the
yeah,
reason that we have this higher power or authority or God is that becomes the highest, or the tip of the spear, if you will, or the top of the pyramid in what we value, and it begins to integrate all of these other values together. So you can
yeah,
begin to see why valuing your family, but also valuing meaningful contribution to society, how they're integrated. And for me, it's it's brought me a level of confidence, I would say, in that I know the map that I'm supposed to be following. Now, whether or not I follow it, that's a whole other conversation. But I
mhm,
know what it is. And if I strive to follow that roadmap based on that hierarchy of values, I have faith, and it's proven to produce good results in my life.
absolutely, absolutely. Like it's funny you talk about this because like on the last Bible study last Thursday, one of my brother, and he's really a spiritual mentor. I have two spiritual mentors, Randy and Sean. I want to name them on purpose. And Sean was saying like when you started to put God front and center, actually everything click around really perfectly, and you actually yes, you say it in a very interesting and very smart way and wise way when you say like it's an upper hierarchy. It's a upper hierarchy or front and center, and everything click like you know. Uh, I'm really much more on this path like my wife. Doesn't mean she's not on the path at all, or it's a different path, I would say. For instance, she's not in a Bible study, etc. It's not like we have like to copy stuff or to have like one system. But the funny thing is like, not the funny thing, the interesting thing, like my wife can tell I'm a changed man. She can
Mm.
tell, and she truly appreciate it. And 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 at the same time, it's more easy for us now because we empty nester. We have two boys, 19 and 23. The 23 live in New York, he has his job. The 19 is at West Point, he does his job. So it's easier because it's just the two of us. But anyway, she can tell like everything we have to deal, even at distance with our sons or even with friends or family. I'm much more solid to deal with anything, and so and it doesn't oppose anything. My wife know every Thursday I'm doing this every Thursday morning. There's this stuff I do, but it's not a sacrifice anymore because she know exactly what it brings to the table. She know exactly what it brings, not only to her life as my wife and to our marriage, but what it brings and how much it influenced to this day, even if we are empty nester. Patrick and Thomas, my two sons, it affect the family. I can have react, and I'm not perfect, of course. It's not like suddenly I'm perfect, but it affect in a positive way any kind of relationship. So you don't make that much of the sacrifice anymore. So yes, it's very interesting. Like it get back to what you say about the hierarchy and or putting God front and center, and everything gonna be around like flowing around naturally.
Right, right. I want to shift gears a little bit. I'm interested in your transition. You know, you're a photographer. Some of the guys may know that. You photographed for the NBA for a lot of years. You're no longer doing that, I understand.
No,
But
no.
then now you're doing photography for PBR,
Yeah,
which, you know, obviously both sports, but completely different cultures, you know,
yeah,
completely different arena. And I'm really
yeah.
curious about that transition and how that's been for you.
Yes. To sum it quick, I was a sports photographer for 17 years, and mostly I've been specialized covering the NBA as a freelance. I always did everything as a freelance. And when I covered the NBA, at some point, I started to get to be represented by the NBA. So my photo were sold via Getty Image, which is a
Mm.
famous photo agency. Um, I started to shoot PBR 4 or 5 years ago just because my love for America was with the meat of the cowboys. So basically, I wanted to know more about the Western culture, something I didn't know, like cowboys, wranglers, being on the horse, like, and riding bronc and riding bulls, etc. So I was like, okay, what I know how to do is to take photography, to learn the Western culture. Let's approach it by doing photography. That's why I learned, I approached the culture. I stopped being an NBA photographer and I retired for the job following last season because of what the NBA is. That's another conversation. And I shoot PBR the freelance, and it started like, and I'm gonna shoot the American rodeo in March in Texas for the
Mm.
company Teton Ridge. And the thing is like again like God's plan, because when I start shooting PBR years ago, first I met so many great people. I learned about the culture. I was not really making a lot of money out of it. I could do it because I was making a lot of money with the NBA.
Got
And
it.
then when I retired from the NBA, it was like a long transition of 6, 7 months when I didn't shoot anything. I shoot PBR one time, and then I've been contacted to shoot the American Rodeo by Teton Ridge. But the idea, photography was a mean to me to work in the USA in an easy way. The fact that I have like my French accent, etc. Don't care. You take a body camera, the image. I can cover sports. Sports are popular in France. The NBA is very popular in France. That's a mean, but I love the expression of it. And then I wanted to learn about the cowboy. Same. What do I do best? I can take pictures. So I went to learn about the cowboy. And the funny thing is, like, when I decided to retire from the NBA, I was like, I might not shoot sports ever again because, yeah, I can shoot PBR once in a while, but I'm not making a lot of money out of it. And suddenly, I'm going to shoot the American Rodeo next month. And the funny thing is, like, actually, it's going to be one of the best sports. It's the best pay I had in 17 years of career at sports, because sports pay, but over, because you have like an archive, a stock, etc. So
Sure.
it's kind of one of the funny things, but everything goes back to use a tool to achieve your dreams. And also everything goes back to like following your dream. I love America. I decided to be a sports photographer to cover the US sports. And then I love the cowboys, the Western culture I wanted to learn. I decided to shoot this and everything. And I've been provided by this incredible reward. I have a 17 years career as an NBA photographer. I cover 6 NBA finals. I shot like great players, great athletes, and great games. And now I'm more and more exciting to do stuff in the rodeo arena area. And he comes back to America. Just my love, man. I'm the same kid at 7 years old who dressed up as the cowboy with his gun. I'm the same one. I'm just 51 years old, and I'm still like, look at this guy with big eyes. And then because I love them, because I love the culture, because I love everything about it, I think that's what makes me take good picture of them. And I keep following my dreams, like following the people and the thing I like.
It's got to be pretty amazing that at 7, 8 years old, where, you know, you've got movies that you're watching and probably John Wayne and things like that. And then now to be where you are, to be front and center with these guys that are riding 2,000-pound bulls
Yeah.
and trying to, you know, hold on for dear life. I'm curious about the culture among men. What would you say is the difference between, generally speaking, I guess, the NBA and what you're seeing with PBR and the rodeo circuits that you're part of now?
Uh, the value, the value are real. and the marketing is based on the value when it comes to rodeo and PBR. So the way they market themselves, and we're talking about advertising, we're talking about the photography, we're talking about the TV clips, etc. That's actually real. They believe in what they do. This is a culture of, this is a country, a rural country culture. This is people who are actually rancher, cowboy, etc., who grew up in this culture, in this education. So they don't fake it. It's kind of, it's incredible for a guy who was born in France and grew up in France. It's like, this is absolutely the reality of the myth. So there's a myth of the cowboy, and everything can be tough. He can be, the value he has, the endurance, the resilience, the will to not complain, the will to wake up early, to do the work, etc. And you could think like, no, this is too beautiful to be true, and it's actually true. And everybody in the Western culture, we're talking about PBR or American rodeo guy, etc. But you're talking, when I've been to ranch in Wyoming, when I've been to place in Montana, no matter the size of the ranch, of the farm, this is real. So the PBR markets something which is really real. And you know this. And when you walk with them, you say, yes, this is real. The NBA, on the other side, it's an hypocrite. They are really hypocrite, and they do the marketing to please people. I'm going to give you an example. The NBA, they have like, mostly the players are black. So it's easy to say that, oh, we really anti-racism because we have these black people. So we're going to push this. But that's just a lie. They don't even believe it. They don't believe in equity and stuff, equality and stuff like this. Equality, so another thing. They don't believe in it. And I have one simple example. Sometimes I'm like, there's 30 NBA team, and there's a little more than 30 NBA official team photographer, and all of them are white, which is absolutely fine for me, because I never grew up with, like, I don't want to anything because of my skin color. That's not like the way my father raised me. That's not, I never see life like this. But the NBA use skin color as a marketing tool, as a marketing prop, when there was a pandemic and they get back in Orlando and they play in the bubble, they was putting Black Lives Matter on the floor. But they didn't have one photographer who was remotely black, So, which is not a problem. They are all great guys and they deserve the spot. But the NBA use value and use slogan and use ID they don't believe in. They just don't. They're not going to do any effort because you are black or Latino or anything. They just pretend they care so much about it. So they push like this stupid value, and the guy from the NBA comes with really different, like a bragging, etc. So I mean, there's no two guys same, but it's not like the guy on the rodeo circuit, the guy from PBR, they are just all solid men. They are men who are gonna look at you, say hi to you, shake your hands, look into the eyes, etc. Notice you. In the NBA, maybe because they are too big, maybe they are too rich, maybe the way they were raised, they don't care, So
interesting.
The values they promote in the NBA are fake. The value promoting the Western culture in the Western sport are real, are just, we're going to sell you what we are. And they do. And it shows immediately. In 6 months shooting the PBR, I got much more friends than in 15 years shooting the NBA.
Is that right? Wow.
At every level of the organization, up to the CEO of PBR, which is a man I know, So, and I'm the same guy. I'm kind of a nice guy. I'm not somebody which is impressive or anything. So why in one organization I know everybody working there, and in another organization I make some friends along mostly of the photographer. I don't really know. I know one guy. One guy who became a friend he was at my birthday, my 50 years old birthday 2 years ago. But that's it. I never met other real friends. in the PBR organization, from top to bottom, I can say I know dozens of people.
I wonder
Value are really
if that
different.
is, well, it's just interesting, you know, you consider the reach of these rodeo circuits relative to the reach of the NBA. It's not even comparable, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder if now that you're saying that, that part of the reason it's not is because it actually is a lifestyle, and the amount of people living the lifestyle of ranchers and cowboys is significantly less than those who might pick up a basketball and play, you know, pick up basketball in their driveway, for example. And
Yeah.
and maybe that authenticity of it, that genuineness of it will reach a smaller audience, but they'll be fully committed and bought in because it is so genuine.
Yeah, listen, to become an NBA player or NFL player, MLB player, it's like it's a lot of work. It's one
No doubt.
one in a million. And it's a lot of work, etc. But says, and you need talent, etc., etc. Sure, every time a rider ride a bull, it's life or death situation. When they get injured, they don't have a strained back and not playing for 3 or 4 games. They don't, they don't, they don't, they don't, they don't do the stuff like the beginning of the season. There's a training camp, then the exhibition game. I'm not playing because I'm getting ready for the season. It doesn't happen. These guys, they ride the bulls to make money. If they don't ride the bulls, they don't make money. You know,
Mm.
I see rider with a cast because they broke or they damaged their wrist, so they play with a cast. On the opposite side, you have like an NBA player who has a strained back, a little tension in a hip, or cold, is gonna be out for the game tonight. So the reality of it is like it cannot attract the same amount of people, but yes, but it's two different breed of people. It's two different breed of men.
Mm.
Still admiration for a lot of, and a season with 72 games, no, 72, 82 games plus playoff, etc. It's a long season in NBA, for
No
instance.
doubt. No
But
doubt.
still, it's a different breed of man. It's so demanding. And the fact like the money is so, you know, I don't want to name them, but I know players who had contract. It's ridiculous. Especially the last 15 years since I started, since the Jordan era. Some guy like had contract, you are like, back in the day, Jordan makes this, Bird makes this, Charles Barkley made this, and you got this contract. It becomes such a business, like the money is crazy. And there's some perversion with the money. If you make that much money, like yeah, you're not going to put the same kind of effort, you know, compared to a
Yeah.
rider who's gonna go beyond the circuit, and there's a and they keep the love of what they're doing. This guy, the bull rider, they love riding bull. How crazy as it is, they love riding bull. I think some players, they love some NBA players, they love everything which come with the game. Some of them really love the game. Some of them like are happy to be here and to be to this level. They don't have the same kind of love.
Interesting. I'm also curious about your style. You know, that's one thing that obviously stands out. If people just see you, you know, you're probably a memorable person because of your unique and interesting style. Are you deliberate that in that as a way to stand out and make yourself different? Is it simply just an expression of who you are? Like, how much goes into the way you present yourself physically?
You know, until I was in my early 40s, late 30s, I never had any style. I'm pretty sure nobody would have said, "Oh, Chris has a nice style," etc. And I started to get a style which was noticeable and get compliment and stuff, but with no fake humility. I never try. At some point, especially when I started to really move to the USA, because I've been traveling in the USA for 20 years, a little more than 20 years, and I really moved a little more than 10 years ago. At some point, I started to dress exactly the way I wanted to dress. And again, it came back to the kid who was 7 years old. One of my favorite photo I have, uncle who died like a long time ago, took it for my Christmas. He bought me like a cowboy outfit, and I have the cowboy outfit, everything, and I have a gun and a smile. And honestly, it sounded a little like ridiculous or corny, but I started to dress at 37, 38. I started to dress like this, meaning like I was in the USA. I was like, I'm gonna buy myself a pair of cowboy boots, you know, and
Right.
I'm gonna get this ring. But just the stuff I like. I honestly didn't try to build a style. I decided to dress exactly with the stuff I like, you know. Same with my fro. I decided to grow my fro more than 10 years ago because I spent the first 40 years of my life, almost more close to 40 years of life, shaving my head every 4 months, 4 weeks, you
Mm,
know. So I get a buzz cut every 4 weeks.
right.
And I was convinced that it was the only good look for me, you know, for some reason, which is cultural. It's a black cultural thing, I think, because I see so many men like in the USA like shaving their head. Jordan has had a big effect on it. But I was convinced, oh, I will never look good with it. And at some point, a little more than 10 years ago, I was like, I'm done with shaving. Going to a barber shop every 4 weeks. I'm done with it. I'm just gonna let it grow. I don't care. I'm just gonna let it grow. And I was not caring also because I was never the guy who pay attention to his style or anything like this. So it's not like I was like, oh, if I don't look sweet, I never saw myself looking really good. So I was like, I'm gonna just like, I'm done. And I grew up. And the funny thing, I grew up at the same time I was really moving for good in the USA. And it's kind of a smile magnet. A lot of people came to me like, oh, the fro, you remember the 70s. I got a lot of black people, but even white people. I had the Jewish fro back in the days. They showed me picture when they were young. So it becomes something like really positive and fine. I didn't, and I keep it because yeah, it was fine, it was cool. And then I met my wife, and my wife, she doesn't like me at all. Even when I shorten the fro, she doesn't like me at all. But it was not deliberate in the point like I need to look cool, I need to look like this. The funny thing, I became the cool guy in my 40s, just wearing the stuff I want to wear. And sometimes I go in area. I like 70s stuff. I can have like some shirt with a big, you know.
A big butterfly
And back
collar.
in the day, my son, yeah, back in the day, my son, when I was speaking about at high school, they were like, "Oh my, Chris, oh no, come on, yeah, okay, let's leave," you know, because it was too much, and I was not doing this, but for anybody but me, I always pay attention, like, uh, it pleased my wife. If my wife say, I don't like this, I don't like that, I'm not really doing it. You know, I think a man should always seducing his woman. So I don't do this. But besides this, I wear everything I like. And it happened like suddenly people find me cool. Trust me, Ryan, I was not cool for the first close to 40 years of my life. I was so not cool in high school. I talk about this many times. I had two girlfriends. They broke with me after 3 weeks, telling me, "Oh, we're gonna stay friends. You're a good guy." But you know,
Yeah.
I was not the cool guy. That's why I read so many books when I was young. That's why you know, I learned about America. I learned English really because I was not cool, and it's not deliberate in a way. I want to have a style. I just do whatever I want. It happened like to click for some
I
reason.
think
I don't know.
I think maybe the reason it is because exactly what you said. It's not fabricated. It's an expression or an extension of who you are. I want to wear the things I want to wear. I want to have my hair the way I want to have my hair. And I think that that congruency, you know, between you just wanting to be you and expressing it
Yeah.
is probably what makes it cool. More
Yeah.
than just the fabric it happens to be, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we talk about authenticity, and that's a word like you know, can mean everything. But yes, I don't do it because I want to look like someone or I want to do it for a certain purpose. You know, I do it because I like it. It comes for who I am, and I honestly, it's corny again, but I'm pleasing. I always say like if you could have a conversation with the kid you were at 7 years old, and the kid you were at 7 years old like find you cool, you are cool. So it's not a conversation with the girl who didn't find me cool at 7 years or at 14 years old. It's a conversation with the kid at 7 or 14 years old. If we could travel and I could talk to myself at 7 years old and he say, wow, you were, and I'm pretty sure this kid will say, wow, we became this? That's super cool, you know.
That is.
I never do it to get the girls, you know, to get the girl. I was past this, you know. I was surprised. Like I found my wife. She's absolutely gorgeous and more than physically on top of it. But I'm the guy who couldn't get a girlfriend as a teenager, and I get the hottest woman, smarter, like you know, in my 40s. So I do it for myself, not to get to be cool for anybody else.
I've never heard even remotely what you just said, but it's super interesting where you said, if your 7-year-old or your 14-year-old self could look at you, would he be excited? Would he be impressed? I've never heard that framing, but that's a fascinating idea.
I think this is an idea. I talked to this about to my son also. Like, don't try to betray yourself. Be honest with who you are. Be realistic and honest, but don't try to betray yourself. What you are and what you are at 7, at 14, a teenager, don't try to forget there's a good thing in you. Let's try to not betray yourself. Grow up and grow up like the 14 years old, gonna be very proud of the 44 years old. And if you don't betray yourself, it doesn't matter for any kind of reason, I mean, any kind of goals. But yeah, I think in a weird way, it mattered to me a long time. I used to say, like, when I was in high school, I was a nerd, etc. And when it was come to think about what you're going to do after high school, what kind of college, etc. I was always telling, it was kind of me being like, the smart ass, but I was saying, oh, do you want to go to business school? Do you want to go to law school? Do you want to do this? I was like, I want to be in Diana Jones. What the past? And it was a little bit smart ass, but honestly, I was kind of naive. I was not mature in this way, like, but it was real. I wanted kind of doing cool stuff and explore the world in a way.
Sure.
And it took me a little bit, and it was that. I didn't become an archaeologist or stuff like this, but that's what I did actually. Whether I was a journalist in the tech, I became a photographer, I decided I'm going to try to live in America. That's what I did. I've been traveling the world for 20 years, from Russia to China to Asia, most countries in Europe, all over America. So in a way, I was joking at 15, 16 years old. In a way, I became Indiana Jones. I became the Indiana Jones I was thinking I'd like to be. I became this dude.
I love it. I love it. This has been a fascinating discussion. I know the guys are going to be interested in learning more about your story and what you're all about and following your work. Tell the guys where to go, how to connect with you, and then we'll close out for today.
So I keep my Instagram. It's Throw Your Mind, like free your mind, but throw your mind. I don't have any Twitter anymore. I decided 2 years ago to get rid of Twitter. I don't have
Probably a
any
good
Facebook
idea.
anymore. But I'm gonna keep being online through my Instagram. And when I'm gonna launch my podcast, etc., everything gonna be pushed through my Instagram. So Instagram.com/throw your mind.
Awesome. We're going to sync it all up. Let me know when you go live with your podcast. I'll help you promote it. I'll get it out. I'll spread the word on my end because what you're doing is incredible. Who you are is incredible. And I just appreciate you taking some time today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you.